All right, let's talk about careers. I want you to forget everything you've ever been told about climbing the corporate ladder. Today, we're going to explore a completely different path, one that looks a whole lot more like a jungle gym. And believe me, it might just be the secret to your success. So, the idea we're diving into today kicks off with a pretty bold promise, right? To ruin your worldview, but in the best way possible. The whole premise is that our traditional model for what a successful career looks like is completely broken. So let's dig in and see if that's actually true. And here it is, the whole idea in one single image. Over on the left, you've got the old career ladder. It's rigid, it only goes one way, up, and honestly, it's pretty obsolete. But on the right, you see the jungle gym. It's agile, it's nonlinear, and it's built for the world we actually live in today. This shift in thinking is exactly what we're going to unpack. Okay, so first things first. Let's really break down this old model and figure out why it's become such a trap for so many of us. Think about it. The whole concept of a career ladder is basically a blueprint from the 1950s. It was designed for a world with predictable, stable jobs that, let's be real, just doesn't exist anymore. Trying to use that model today, it's kind of like trying to send a tweet with a rotary phone. The tool is just completely wrong for the job. And when you cling to that outdated ladder idea, it leads you straight into a really dangerous place. The comfort trap. You could call this career quicksand. You know the feeling, right? You're in a job you've kind of outgrown. It's easy, it's comfortable, you know what to expect. But the longer you stay, the more your skills start to get stale, and the bigger your fear of the unknown gets. You're stuck.
So this forces you to ask yourself a really crucial question, especially if you're in the earlier stages of your career. What are you really optimizing for right now? Is your main goal to maximize your paycheck today? Or is it to maximize how much you're learning for tomorrow?
And here's the brutal, honest truth. Chasing that bigger salary too early in your career can actually make you poorer in the long run. Now, why is that? It's because real, sustainable income always follows valuable, rare skills. When you optimize for learning first, you're making an investment in a much, much higher future earning potential. Okay, so if the ladder is a trap, what's the alternative? This is where we get to the good stuff, the solution. Let's talk about the jungle gym advantage. You see, unlike a ladder, a jungle gym lets you move in all sorts of directions, sideways, diagonally, sometimes even in a move that looks like a step backward. But these aren't setbacks. They are strategic moves you make to collect a unique mix of skills that over time will make you totally irreplaceable. Let me show you how you can build a kind of career superpower. Imagine you start with a hard skill, something like data analysis. Then you make a sideways move and learn graphic design. And after that, you layer on an understanding of human psychology. All of a sudden, you've got this amazing skill stack. You can't just analyze the data. You can visualize it beautifully and present it in a way that actually persuades people. Now, that is irreplaceable. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually do it without getting totally lost or overwhelmed? Well, the key is a concept called the adjacent possible. What this means is you don't need some grand 50-year plan. The adjacent possible is just that sweet spot of opportunity that's only one step away from what you already know how to do. It's all about running small, manageable little experiments to feel your way forward, instead of trying to map everything out perfectly from the start. And let's be real for a second, we've all been here. We all know that 3 a.m. voice of doubt that loves to catalog every potential failure. That fear of making the wrong move can be absolutely paralyzing. But there's actually a way to harness that energy. It's something called productivity procrastination. So the next time you find yourself avoiding a boring task at work, don't just mindlessly scroll through social media. Instead, channel that avoidance energy into a little side project, or maybe start learning that one skill you've always been curious about. A lot of times, those little procrastination projects are like signposts pointing directly to what you're truly passionate about. And this brings us to what is probably the biggest hurdle for most people, that deep-seated fear of failure. If you want to thrive on the jungle gym, you have to fundamentally change your relationship with the idea of failure. A lot of this fear is powered by a psychological bias we all have, called the spotlight effect. It's that feeling that if you make a sideways move and it doesn't pan out, everyone is watching you, everyone is judging you. But the reality, they're way too busy worrying about their own careers to pay that much attention to yours. So the trick here is something called cognitive reframing. Instead of looking at a setback through the failure frame and thinking, I am a failure, you learn to adopt the designer frame. And you start to see it as, okay, this is just one data point. This experiment didn't work. Time to try another one. It stops being a reflection of your worth and just becomes part of the process.
A really powerful mindset for this whole journey is the Stockdale paradox. It's kind of a dual belief system. On one hand, you have to maintain this absolute, unwavering faith that you will succeed in building a fulfilling career. But at the exact same time, you have to have the discipline to look at your current situation with brutal honesty. What's working, what's not, and what really needs to change.
And that really brings us to the core message, the final call to action. Stop trying to be the CEO of your life, making these rigid 5-year plans and trying to predict outcomes you have no control over. Instead, start being a designer. Be curious, be experimental, and focus on building a life step by step that actually works for you. So, I'll leave you with this final question to think about. Forget the ladder for a minute. What's one small adjacent move? Maybe it's a side project, or a conversation you need to have, or a new skill you want to learn. What's one move that you've been just a little too afraid to make? Because maybe, just maybe, that's where your jungle gym adventure begins.